Hello, everyone. My name is Airon White. I am a product marketing manager here at BigCommerce, and I'm here today to deliver my second part of my two-part series called Pitch It and They Will Buy It. I'm going to go through a little bit about myself, an overview of my first part of the series in case you missed that talk last week, and then we'll get into this series. Are they going to actually buy this? What is that value? What is that benefit? That's what we're going to get into today, is when you're getting through that pitch, after you've built your product, how are you going to get this in front of your customers so that once they do purchase your app, your tech, how are you going to keep them using it? So it's not only important to obtain new customers, to reach out to new prospects, but it's also really important, and maybe even more important, to retain your customers. They're the ones who keep your lights on, that keep things going, and they're the ones that can also become your advocates and your product evangelists. So if you've built something that someone wants to buy and they have purchased it, continue to invest in what that experience looks like for those customers, because those are going to be the ones that will shout from the rooftops that something is amazing. Now, we all know that you hear more about negative experiences through online reviews, or somebody posts something on a social media channel. Negative attention gets the most attention, unfortunately. But by and large, people also will do more advocacy for you if something is great, a phenomenal experience, or maybe it didn't turn out to be so great at the beginning and you delivered excellent customer experience to help turn a negative situation into a positive experience and enhance your product. And in those ways, you'll have more customers that stay with you for a lifetime, rather than jumping around, shopping around to different platforms or different products. So this is a slide that we went over with the Build It and They Will Try It presentation that I did last week. I'm going to just leave this up here briefly in case you missed my talk last week. So what we talked about was the different phases that you would want to consider for building out your new app, especially through this hackathon. You don't have a lot of time to put much thought into it, but if you keep some of these very basic things in mind, this is what we'll also be able to leverage when you get into pitching. So in your ideation for your new tech, when you're planning it out, testing it, making sure that it works, that the functionality is there, and then iterating on that during any testing that you can do. Now, of course, a hackathon that lasts less than 2 weeks might give you very few hours to do multiple rounds of testing. But if it's at all possible to do that, I highly recommend testing and retesting, especially if you have the same kind of customer cohort or a group that can test out your product in different phases. Maybe they have an alpha phase to test out your basic MVP product. And if you're able to iterate on it before you go to release this into full functionality, you can have somebody test it out to make sure any enhancements or changes that you might have made actually are going to be functional and beneficial to that end user. So once you pull all of this together into your integration, this brings in your benefits, your feature, and your functionality to equate into value. And value is what you always want to consider when you are building out and pitching your product. So that leads us into pitching to your end user. So these are 3 key areas that you can keep in mind. Now you'll see there's a lot of carryover from building it. And the reason for that is when you build something with your end user in mind, you already have so much valuable data and information at hand for when you're trying to sell it to that same end user. What kind of pain is somebody having that you're trying to fix? All great inventions were built because there was a problem or a gap, right? You could not see in the middle of the night, so somebody invented a light bulb and electricity, or a kerosene lamp, right? There was some pain that somebody experienced to build the invention or whatever integration that you're building out. So what is that pain that your ideal customer is experiencing at any given time that you'll be able to solve for? Now, you don't have to make it complex. It could be a simple pain point that you're going to solve in this iteration. And if you're able to solve it, you have those customers that say, oh man, I've been able to save money or time or energy, or made me much more efficient in these specific ways. Then you can expand your reach for that pain point and build out more in your next iteration or in another product altogether. Next, you also want to consider the competitive landscape for your product. So out there in the market today, in the global ecosystem, there are a lot of different companies out there that might be creating the similar solution that solves a pain point. You need to consider what your product is or what your product does that is different, that differentiates you from the 5, 10, 15, 20 other companies out there that might be trying to solve that same problem. What is the pain point that you have, and what is unique about your solution that makes you stand out from the rest? And really, when you can identify that, lean into it, double down your efforts on here's why I'm different from this other integration, this other company who's building out something similar for you to use. Because in this day and age, with all of the technology that we have at hand, our attention spans are so much smaller than they used to be. You don't have somebody flipping through a magazine or a newspaper as much as often as you're scrolling through social media, and we are click happy. Clickbait happens all the time, and you look at the next shiny thing and forget about that first thing you might have seen, unless you make it memorable and different. So you also want to be able to talk about the function and features of your product to your customers. So now you know who your ideal customer is and how you're different from your competitors. You want to talk about functionality. So the customers that you have in mind, what are you trying to offer to them? You're giving them something that is easy to set up and install, something that is complex and has a lot of steps, that it takes a lot of different inputs or time or systems. You might lose users at the end of the day because it's just too much burden to set up. So if you have something that might be easy to install or to set up, that's a great way to double down on your efforts of saying, hey, if you want something that's easy to use, Mr. Buyer, Mrs. Buyer, here's what you can use our product for. It's easy to set up, especially if you have clear documentation in mind. So this is something you should have built out when you're building your product so that customers can see how you intended your product to be used and how they can use it intentionally. Intention is very important because you've built your product with specific use cases. And again, customers might be using your product in a different way that you might not have considered. But if you make it clear what the intended use is with your documentation, that's going to help drive home what that functionality is. But it also might give you some future insight into what you can build for a next iteration if you're putting out just an MVP. So there's nothing worse than saying, oh, yep, this is all you ever have to do to use this product, and then coming back and saying, except here's an update for you. So just being upfront with what that looks like will really help, as well as your daily operations. Like, what are that customer supposed to be planning for on a daily basis, weekly, monthly, whatever cadence that they would have to do to make their system functional. If it's something that they're going to interact with on a day-to-day basis, say that. Or if it's something that's a set it and forget it, use it one time, and it's just going to operate the way that you need it to daily without any interference, that's totally okay. Just make sure your customer knows that, because that is a great feature that is paired up with that functionality that you have built out. Also, make sure that your system requisites are known. If you have any prerequisites, like you must be building or using a certain internet browser, or you have to have, this is my only work with BigCommerce and not with any other e-commerce platform out there. You want to make sure that that's known so that you have a great end customer experience, and also make sure that they are knowing what they're getting into, because there's nothing worse than buying something and it's not compatible with your product. You can go and buy a phone charger or headphones or something that goes with your iPhone, but if it's not compatible with an iPhone and it's only using an Android operating system, it's going to be a pretty frustrating experience. So make sure that you're doubling your efforts on understanding the prerequisites and making sure your end user has that in mind, so they know that they're purchasing the right version of your product, or if you need to build out a version that operates on a different operating system. And then that intuitive workflow that you might have built into your product through your build and ideation phases. If it's intuitive, then customers are going to be able to use it and not need a lot of hand holding, or they can take a look at that clear documentation that you had before and use it as they go along if they have any challenges. An intuitive workflow is a great feature to talk about, because you want to make sure your customers are able to do this without a lot of lift and extra energy that they might need to spend elsewhere on their business to be successful. You're trying to enhance their lives, not make it harder. And then finally, you want to talk about your benefits. What kind of benefits are customers going to get out of using your integration or your new product? You need to consider all of these when you're talking about your product, when you're pitching it. So talk about the streamlined operations. So back in the baseline slide or section here, we talked about pain points. Maybe some of that pain points is that I'm a single person, I'm a one person shop, and I have to do everything. I would love a tool that takes some of that daily rigmarole and streamlines it for me. Bring those together and talk about how you're going to solve that pain point of overburdened for daily tasks that you can streamline operations. So another benefit that you might be able to talk about is expanding reach. So you might build a product that helps a merchant expand their reach to reach new customers. Maybe you're building out a payment integration for cryptocurrency, and that opens up a whole new market of people who spend using cryptocurrency more than they spend their own country's currency, because it's more secure and safe for them to use and backed more than their own country's currency. We see that sometimes in LATAM or in the Asian Pacific countries where their dollar or their currency is a bit more volatile. Cryptocurrency can be something that's a little bit more stable than that. So this would allow you to expand your reach into those areas. Another benefit that you might be able to talk about is reducing total cost of ownership. And what that means is how much is a merchant spending to find and retain customers rather. So are you spending money on marketing dollars? Are you spending money on advertising, social media? Do you have to pay somebody to do just that for you? And if you're able to streamline any of those operations, maybe scheduling events to post on your social media, or maybe you have someone that you want to spend more time on your social media marketing plan, but they're spending more time on maintaining product catalog and inventory. So if you're able to spend, less time in one area, you can dedicate that time elsewhere. And then that would reduce the total cost of owning those customers that are coming to your platform, because you're able to put more energy into specific areas. Another benefit of your product might be that you are increasing the average order value that a customer might have as they're putting products into their shopping cart. If you make it easy and streamlined to select your product, to purchase, to add it to a cart, to follow up, then they might be willing to spend a little bit more, add more products to their cart so that they can buy more. If a customer offers free shipping and you have a shipping integration, then that might be something you could help pitch by bringing in easier, faster shipping options that make it more easy for customers to love you. Then you also can increase shopper lifetime value. So that really means, are they coming back to a customer's store over and over and over again? Again, that makes them that product evangelist and helps a customer to retain those shoppers in the long term. So whether your integration or your app, the technology that you're building will help them maintain marketing. It helps their customer retention. You might build something out that helps a customer follow up easier. For example, if you're sending out emails and you want to offer discounted shipping or a discount on buying certain products, then that's going to help increase that shopper lifetime value, because it brings them back over and over to that merchant's store because of the integration that you might have built out. So always keep in mind when you're pitching your final product, that what is that value that you're delivering? So we've talked about pain points that a merchant might have that you're trying to solve. You're talking about that feature and functionality that they will get out of using your integration. And then the final part about that is your benefit. The benefit from leveraging it on a daily basis or a weekly basis. That's going to deliver value. And when we talk about value, that's dollar signs as well. So you're able to understand the willingness to pay from your end user. How much is your integration going to be worth? Do you sell it for $10 a month? Do you sell it for $100 one-time use and they get to keep it for the lifetime of that product? You have to consider what you're going to offer from that functionality and feature aspect, as well as that longer term benefit, which will drive that value and drive your dollar signs. that is all I have for you all today. I would we'll see you all later. Thank you so much.